Now, it's been weeks since SARS introduced the 45% tariff and VAT on all imports. This follows an outcry from local textile businesses about tariff benefits that were given to foreign manufacturers. Joining us now is Etienne Vlok, SACTWU's National Industrial Policy Officer. Etienne, thank you so much for the time. Let's just unpack this a little bit more. Of course, there's this tariff that is in place, of course, a 45 tariff and VAT on all imports, regardless of their value. How much has that helped the textile industry thus far?
Well, good afternoon, Arabile. Thank you very much for having SACTWU on your show. It's a significant injection into the industry, both of confidence and of support, from the government to say that this is an industry that we think is essential to South Africa. This is an industry that can create jobs. This is an industry that can help to deal with unemployment. So the fact that we have now closed a loophole, which has existed for several decades, is extremely important, because what it means now is that everyone will be playing on the same level playing field.
Will this also raise quality? Because one might ask themselves about that. Maybe the quality may have not been the same. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm just saying, does this change the quality perspective in that conversation for SACTWU?
No, absolutely. Arabile, we are not one of the cheapest producers around the world, but there's certain things that we do well. The one is we produce good products as South Africa and quality products. The other one is that we are able to deliver goods quite quickly to the retailers. And so if we take away these unfair advantages that some of these large e-commerce retailers are using, then it means there's a better chance of us competing and of us using those two areas that we do quite well. One of the most important things about the rise of these new large e-commerce retailers, including Shein and Temu, is that they use a business model which we think really belongs to the trash heap. Comes out of the 1990s. The first thing is there's great exploitation of workers, huge overtime, people not able to rest, low wages, and this has been documented and shown recently in a documentary in the UK. But also the products that are being made is very low quality, and as a result, people wear it a few times and then it ends up on the trash heap. So it's not good for our planet. And so for us, it's a discussion also about who are these companies and is this ethical companies that we should be buying from?
Yeah, and I mean, you make note of the likes of Temu and such, of course, one of them looking to actually list on the respective stock exchanges, that not happening in the US, possibly seeking to do so in the UK as well. But let's talk about just locally as well. Does this perhaps decrease the number of imports then that come to the country? Do you see that bound to happen then, that it will decrease the number of imports of textiles actually coming into the country, or will they just cost more?
Well, it's a combination of the two, Arabile. So because they will cost more, it means that those who may have bought previously online starts to look locally and perhaps find a product from a local e-commerce retailer, including small businesses where they can get similar products, or from large brick and mortar retailers. And that hopefully through that, over time, it means a bit of a decrease in imports and we're seeing more space then for local retailers. I think the thing that we need to acknowledge about this intervention is that while it will be beneficial for factories that make clothing and shoes and bedding, it's also beneficial for retailers. So workers who work in shops and distribution warehouses will also benefit, because now there's a chance that the market share of their employer won't be diminished. And so it has an impact across a very large part of the South African economy.
Yeah, and with that being said, you have the jobs situation as well. Is this likely to just save jobs, or will this create more jobs?
Well, we think as a first step, save jobs, and then hopefully over time create jobs. Arabile, if I may link to your previous insert, we're talking in South Africa about the fight against gender-based violence and what we're doing here. It's interesting because the clothing industry especially is a tool to help us in that fight. 4 out of every 5 workers in the clothing industry are women. And it's an industry where generally wages and incomes are better than in many others. There are usually benefits such as medical aid and provident fund. And the more women are employed, the more they earn their own incomes and benefits that can look after the families. The more independent they are, the better decisions or it empowers them to make decisions when they are trapped in a relationship where they may be abused. So there's also a strong link, not just to the fact that people are receiving wages, but to broader social issues in South Africa. And for that reason, we've made the case to government to say this is an exceptional industry. It's able to create jobs for many people, but especially for women. And for that reason, we need to look after it.
How do we make the industry a little bit more competitive, as it were? Because while the tariff conversation is a little bit out of the global handbook at this point in time, because that's what we're seeing across many other countries, but how do we ensure that South Africa remains competitive just regionally within itself or domestically, and then on an international scale?
So there are a few things, because generally the wages that we pay in South Africa are better than in many other countries. It's not easy always for us to compete on price. Many other countries decide, they're not going to enforce labor rights. They're not going to pay living wages. And so they're able to send very cheap products here. So we have to find something else. At the same time, we have to be competitive. The factories have to be productive. But we must find another way of competing. And one of the main ones is to say, let's try and deliver our product much quicker to the customer. Arabile, instead of that customer ordering from China, taking several weeks and months for the product to be manufactured, sent on a ship to South Africa and only arriving several months later, if we can deliver as a country and as local factories to those retailers in a much shorter time, they may be prepared to pay a slight premium for the fact that they now have certainty that they can get that product much quicker. And so you'll see the fact that we still have an industry in South Africa is really a large part of that is to do with the fact that we're delivering product much quicker than others.
That also means, though, you have to increase infrastructure, which means raising spending in that way as well. How much does that hurt retailers? Does that hurt jobs? Does that hurt the growth if you are unable to do that?
No, absolutely. If they have to wait for orders, then it significantly affects their sales. It means they lose sales. If we have problems in terms of infrastructure, if the roads are not kept, means products can't be moved quickly. But there is an interesting part to this, Arabile, because the problems at the harbors, the problems generally in the world with shipping, with supply chains, the wars, etc., is creating some space for the local industry, because now companies are looking and saying, but if I can order this locally and get it quicker to my distribution center and into my shops, perhaps I'm prepared to pay a little bit more. Instead of waiting at the harbor, there may be delays with freight, there may be delays in taking off the containers of the ships. So interesting thing, because it creates a little bit of a space for us as a local industry.
Yeah, very interesting one. Etienne, thank you so much for this conversation. Hopefully we can continue it as well as things continue to change then in what is likely to be a moving plan as well. SACTWU's National Industrial Policy Officer, Etienne Vlok.